Thank you to everyone that has joined us for the Kimball Junction Environmental Impact Statement Draft EIS presentation and virtual public hearing. My name is Bree Binabus, and I'm part of the communications and public involvement team for the study, and I'll be helping with moderating the meeting this evening, along with several other members of our public involvement team that are kind of helping make this happen tonight. For those of you that just might have joined, this hearing is being recorded, so it'll be part of the project record and it will be available to view on our project website. So if you're aware of anyone in the community that wasn't able to join us tonight but would still like to be able to hear a little bit more about the project, or who perhaps couldn't join us at our open house on Tuesday, this will be available, and it's all that same information and it's on our website. And for those of you that might be in between things and you're starting this meeting from your computer, but you need to switch to a phone, we'll be dropping that link in the chat as well for a way to stay connected if you need to. So with that, just kind of one final reminder, and we'll be doing this throughout the evening, but we always appreciate when folks sign in, and just so we can kind of help understand a little bit more about our audience and who's coming to these meetings. Not a requirement for participation at all, but we're always welcome or appreciate that. And so with that, let's get started with our agenda, just kind of a quick overview of what to expect this evening. And we will be putting a link to our overall participant guide if you're a little bit curious for how the hearing portion will work, and we'll look at that in a little bit more detail. I did want to do just a quick round of introductions for those of you that might not have been able to come to some of our other meetings, for our key project team members. And we've got Becky Stromness, who is our UDOT project manager, and she'll be reviewing the study information tonight. Carissa Watanabe is with UDOT's environmental program for this study. Jeff Simmons is our consultant project manager. Heidi Spoor is our environmental lead for this project. Charles Allen is our traffic and analysis guru. And we've got several members of our public involvement team who are helping to moderate this meeting this evening: Marissa, Kelsey, Tyson, Alana, and Erica. And if you're ever curious who reads all the comments you submit, we are that group. And if you're following along with the presentation tonight, and you can't see any of the graphics on the screen clearly, you won't be able to zoom in, but we will be placing all of this information, links, and chats. These graphics are on our fact sheets, the display boards that we had at the public meeting, and our very large map that we had at public meeting. So these are all on our website, and you're welcome to share those links as well. And tonight's meeting format is a public hearing. So we will be giving a quick overview just for folks that are newly joining us. And we'll be taking formal comments from anyone who would like to make any statements. However, we won't be having a question and answer session. This is really just more of a hearing format. And we have our great court reporter, Brooke Sims, on the line with us to help make sure that we're capturing everybody's comments accurately. So Brooke may chime in here or there if she can't hear you very well and might need you to speak up a little bit, so she can record those. So with that, I'd like to turn the time over to Becky to give everyone an overview of the study before we get started with the hearing. So thank you, Becky.
Thank you, Bree. I'd like to thank everyone for joining us this evening. I will be sharing some information about the project, and this is very similar if you've been in attendance or seen some of the other presentations that have been done over the course of the last few weeks. The National Environmental Policy Act, or what we like to call NEPA, comes to us clear back from 1969. And NEPA established national policy, as well as it provides a framework for planning and decision-making. An environmental impact statement, or what we like to call an EIS, is a document that details the process through which a transportation project decision is made. An EIS will identify the purpose and need, or the why we are undertaking the study. It will identify a range of reasonable alternatives. It will also analyze the potential impacts resulting from the alternatives. It will demonstrate compliance with applicable environmental laws and executive orders. It includes opportunities for the public to participate and to comment. And lastly, it determines and documents a preferred alternative, the associated effects, and the proposed mitigation. I'd like to remind everyone what the problems are that the EIS is looking to address. The main issue is that the traffic operations and congestion in the Kimball Junction area have gotten worse due to the ongoing development and growth being experienced in Summit County and the surrounding areas. These conditions will continue to get worse, so the environmental study is seeking solutions that will help with improving traffic operations and travel times on State Route 224. There are also safety concerns with the I-80 off-ramp traffic backing clear down the ramps and potentially into the high-speed interstate traffic. We also want to make sure that both bicyclist and pedestrian accessibility is improved in the area. And the last goal for the project is we want to make sure that the transit travel times are maintained or improved. This whole process started several years back. And what it started with was the Kimball Junction area plan effort. And so from the Kimball Junction area plan effort, there was over 30 ideas and concepts that were developed. That effort occurred back in 2021 when it wrapped up. From that area plan, there were 3 alternatives that were advanced for study in the Kimball Junction EIS. We presented the screening criteria and methodology that would be used to evaluate each of the alternatives to the community in 2023. During that same time, we held a public comment period to get feedback on our methodology, criteria, and associated measures. The level 3 screening criteria that was used to eliminate any alternatives that did not meet the purpose and need of the project. This included metrics for travel times, queue lengths on the I-80 off-ramps, and improving bike and pedestrian mobility and accessibility. And then for the level 4 screening criteria, that was used to eliminate any alternatives that would be unreasonable due to impacts to the natural or human environment. It would not meet regulatory requirements, or it duplicates the benefits of a less costly alternative with similar impacts. Some examples of the resources that were looked at and included for level 4 included things like the estimated impacts to threatened and endangered species, water and wetland resources, and the right-of-way that would need to be acquired for the project. Alternative B, known as the grade-separated intersections with one-way frontage roads, was not advanced for further evaluation in the draft EIS because it did not meet the purpose and need of the project. It failed the level 3 screening for pedestrian and bicyclist mobility and comfort. It also had the most property impacts and the highest cost without substantially greater benefits in comparison to the other 2 options. Both alternative A, which is known as the split diamond interchange with intersection improvements, and alternative C, known as the intersection improvements with pedestrian enhancements, both of these were evaluated in the draft EIS. Both of these alternatives met the purpose and need, and both would achieve similar benefits for vehicular and active transportation users with a similar level of impact to resources. Both of these alternatives will support the future land use in the area and include BRT improvements. The analysis of these alternatives took into consideration currently adopted land use plans and growth assumptions, including future developments proposed in the Kimball Junction area. In this table, it contains the information about the level 3 purpose and need screening of alternative A and alternative C that can be compared to the 2050 no action alternative. The 2050 action no alternative would be what conditions would be if we didn't do the project. So at the top of the table, you'll see that we have travel time, speed, and intersection level of service. In this case, alternative C performs best. Then we have the safety metric of how far the vehicle backup queue would be on the I-80 off-ramp. Alternative C is 200 feet better than alternative A. Then we get into the transit travel times. Alternative A does about 30 seconds better than C, with both alternatives A and C more than 2 minutes better than the no action alternative. Towards the bottom is the bicycle and pedestrian metrics. Alternative C and A were the same with level 1 traffic stress compared to level 3 traffic stress of the no action alternative. And the last criteria was the walk time between 4 different origin-destination pair locations. Alternative A has an estimated time savings of over 1 minute better than alternative C, and both better than the no action alternative. So then this second table contains a summary of the level 4 screening of resource impacts and cost information. Again, it has alternatives A and C that can be compared to the no action alternative. Many of the resource impacts are very similar or even the same for alternatives A and C. Resources that have differences are, first, towards the top, land converted to roadway use and the associated right-of-way acquisition that will be needed. Alternative A has a higher amount at 4.86 acres compared to alternative C, a lesser amount at 3.5 acres. Alternative A has the highest impact to utilities. That is due to a pump house in the area that would be impacted. The aquatic resources and floodplain impacts are slightly higher for alternative A than alternative C. Both alternative A and C have noise receptors with modeled levels above the criteria. That being said, the modeled noise levels are in the same range as the existing conditions and with the no action alternative. The bottom line in the table is the estimated cost. There is a large, nearly 60% difference between alternatives A and C, with alternative C being over $75 million less in cost. For the project noise analysis, we identified sensitive land use areas like residences and determined the traffic noise impacts that would result from the project. Then we evaluated if a noise barrier would be feasible and reasonable. When evaluating if a noise barrier is feasible or reasonable, we look at things like if the barrier would create a safety issue. For example, is there adequate sight distance, or does the barrier obstruct the view of oncoming vehicles that are trying to pull out? Would the barrier provide a noticeable difference in the noise? If we build a wall, we want it to make a difference. Lastly, is it cost effective? We evaluated 6 noise barriers, and of those 6, 2 barriers, NW01 and NW02, or noise wall 1 and 2, which are shown in the blue, were determined to be feasible and reasonable and will be recommended for balloting to the affected property owners. Noise wall 1 would be approximately 17 feet tall and 1,300 feet long. Noise wall 2 would be 14 feet tall and about 600 feet long. UDOT considered transportation performance, impacts to the natural and human environment, and cost in the decision-making process. Alternative C results in a greater reduction in travel delay and faster speeds during both the morning and afternoon peak periods. Alternative C provides acceptable level of service at all intersections and also has the shortest off-ramp vehicle queue lengths. Lastly, alternative C is a more reasonable expenditure of funds for the anticipated operational benefits compared to alternative A. Intersection C, known as intersection improvements with pedestrian enhancements, has been identified as the preferred alternative. Alternative C will provide maximum flexibility for future compatibility depending on how the area develops in the coming years. Most importantly, it doesn't preclude any elements of Alternative A potentially happening in the future. Now I'll go over some of the key features of the preferred alternative. And if you need more detail, definitely go to the project website where you can take your time and look at these close. This is showing the eastbound on-ramp to eastbound I-80. We'll be making some changes to the ramp so that there will be multiple lanes, and this will also allow us to provide longer distances for the traffic to merge. In the left image, we're showing a free right turn on the eastbound off-ramp onto State Route 224, as well as 2 right turns onto the eastbound on-ramp from northbound State Route 224. In the right image, it is showing that the UDOT and Landmark roundabout will have an extra lane traveling from the northbound to eastbound direction. In this figure, Interstate 80, or the direction of north, is to the left of the image. I want you to be oriented correctly. So I-80 to the left of the image. The preferred alternative includes the addition of a 3rd travel lane in both the northbound and southbound directions on State Route 224. There will also be additional left turn lanes at both the Ute Boulevard and Olympic Parkway intersections. So all movements will end up having dual left turns or 2 left turn lanes. That will help the intersection move more vehicles more efficiently. We will also be separating out the right turn lanes at the intersections. There will also be a new pedestrian underpass that will be crossing underneath the road, and that will be located just south of Ute Boulevard between Ute and Olympic Parkway. This, of course, will help people be able to move back and forth across State Route 224 away from the traffic since they'll be in the undercrossing. And then we'll have new buffered bike lanes added along State Route 224. Towards the south end in the study area, on New Park Boulevard, the road will be widened to allow for 2 receiving lanes for the southbound to eastbound dual left turn movement. If we have 2 left turns, we need 2 lanes for them to turn into, so we'll be needing to widen there. There will also be improved trail connections that are more direct and will reduce the out of direction travel for the trail users. After the public comment period, we anticipate conducting further analysis as necessary, and we will be responding to all of the public comments that are received. Our intention is to have a final EIS and record of decision issued later this year. The 45-day public comment period began last month on March 14th and will end on April 28th, 2025. During this public comment period, UDOT is seeking public input specifically about the preferred alternative, how the analysis of the impacts was conducted, and the proposed mitigation of the potential impacts. Comments can be submitted via many different methods. You can do it by phone, email, send them on a paper in the mail. You can provide a comment at one of our public hearings, so that would be tonight if you'd like to, or you can always use the comment form located on our study website. And with that, I will send it back over to Bree. Bree, you're on mute.
Man, gang, 2025, and I forgot how Zoom works. But thank you so much for that overview, Becky. And we'll be starting with the hearing portion of the meeting. So I just want to do a quick review of how that will go for anyone who might have just joined us or didn't get a chance to take a look at our participant guide ahead of time. Um, so with that, we'll be posting a link to that guide in the chat as well if you'd like to follow along there. So as the previous slide noted, each speaker will have about 3 minutes. And Alana, one of our team members, will have a timer, so we'll be able to keep track of that. And to let us know, raise your hand to speak. So just a little bit of the housekeeping stuff. We did have a couple folks that signed up in advance, and we'll be looking to give them kind of the first priority to be able to speak tonight and make their comments. And so they'll be called in the order that they registered. And then for everybody else that is joining us this evening, we'll just be calling folks in the order that say you raise your hand in the chat list or just when we see that in the comments. So thank you for raising your hand, Bob. We'll get you on that list with the other speakers. And so we'd love to get you guys have the opportunity to be able to speak and look directly at us. So you will keep your hand up until you see me promote you to as a co-host. And if you would like to do so, you will have the ability to unmute yourself and then turn your video on if you like. You certainly don't have to have the video on, but we just wanted to make sure that option was available. And our hearing tonight is scheduled to go on to 7:30. But if we do have a large number of folks, we could certainly extend that time. Possibly we'll just wanting to look at, pausing our meeting and potentially restarting our presentation to kind of bring folks up to speed. So with that, if you haven't already signed up to speak, but you'd like to while you're waiting right now, Marissa will be dropping a link in the chat for you to kind of help us keep track of that. And that'll help Brooke take your comments accurately too. And since this is our hearing portion, similar to if you saw any of our meetings on Tuesday, comments made during this evening won't be responded to. But as Becky mentioned, we are going to be collecting all the comments that we get during the hearings and during the comment period, and we'll be recording those. The team that you see here tonight will be reviewing them, and then we'll be providing responses in the final EIS. And, there is no limit to how many comments you might want to make. So even if this evening you would prefer to just submit a comment differently, or you could make a statement tonight, and if something else comes to you a little bit later on, please make sure to submit any additional comments you'd like through the methods that Becky listed. Our website comment form is a great way to do that, and Marissa will be dropping a link in the chat for that. And one thing, very similar to our hearing on Tuesday, any comments that are made through our public or online tools like this, we do ask that you follow UDOT social media kind of participant code of conduct, and Marissa will post the highlights in the chat for you. But folks were really great at the previous hearing as well. So I don't really see that as an issue, but we just wanted to share that with the group that, any comments that include any foul language, threats, obscenity, things like that, you could be removed at our team's discretion, just to make this an open space where folks can speak comfortably, and kind of related to that, spam or other off-topic comments. Like we ask that you try to keep those to a minimum if possible. So with that, for those of you, I'm sure lots of you know how to use Zoom already, but as you can see, even I kind of forgot a little bit. But to let us know that you'd like to make a comment in your browser or on the app, just look at the bottom of your screen for the raise hand icon to identify yourself, so we can keep an eye on that. And from anyone listening in on the phone and you'd like to make a comment via telephone, you can press *9. So with that, let's get started. And Erica, I think you can probably go off our screen share here, and let's allow folks to identify themselves and speak. So I believe our first speaker that had signed up in advance was Joan Entwistle. Joan, are you in the audience with us at all? And if so, could you raise your hand? And I'm not seeing any Joan, so I think we'll skip past her. But Joan, if you're listening and if you're on the phone, also please chime in and let us know. But otherwise, we'll go to our next participant who had registered in advance, and that was Karen Zorzi. I hope I pronounced that right. Karen, are you on? And I think I see your name in the list, so I'll temporarily, I don't see your hand up, but I will make you a co-host if you'd like to make your comment. Oh, Karen, are you on? Karen? Okay. We'll come back to Karen. Oh, no, I see muted. So I think our next speaker will be Bob J. And so, Bob, let's get you able to make your comment. And you should now be a co-host. So if you would like to turn on your screen, you have the ability to do so now.
Okay, great. Can you hear me?
We sure can. Thank you.
Okay, I turned on my camera, but I don't know if it's working. Might be on my oh, it's gone. It's gone onto my laptop. That's why. Okay, sorry. Sorry
Well,
for
thank you for joining us tonight.
yeah,
We
yeah,
appreciate
sorry.
it.
Yeah, great. Thanks so much. I know we only get a couple minutes, so I'll try and make it quick. First off, I was the stop by on Tuesday, but I had my kids with me, so I was unable to stay for the presentation, but got a few questions answered. So really appreciate that. Overall, thank you all. I know you put a ton of work into all this, and sometimes things don't ever pan out and stuff like that. So thank you all for your work. Obviously a little late in the process, but just a couple high level comments at first. My takeaway from what I saw on Tuesday and sort of this and following this process was, one of the main projects or the main principles of this project was stopping the backup on I-80. And I think that is a very large safety concern. I would say, I don't want to speak for our community, that's for sure. But in my opinion, and I feel the community feels the same way, is that's not necessarily the top of mind problem. It's really that traffic within Kimball and the backup on 224. Obviously, again, that's not a part of the study area. And so that's, and I mean like northbound bound 224 in the afternoons on the way out of town. And that's obviously a little bit out of the study area. So that's, kind of out of the ballpark, I guess, for this. But I think really that when you speak to anyone in our community and they talk about traffic in Kimball, that's probably the very first thing that comes to mind. And so when I think of this project, to not address that squarely as a part of the project, it's harder for me to get on board. I definitely agree with the I-80 comment or principle, whatever you want to call it. And I think that is something that needs solved. The other aspect is the pedestrian friendly. I think a lot of the crosswalks at the roundabouts right now are fairly dangerous. I think, even moving those back 10 feet to provide vehicle space to go in front of them before they enter the roundabout is maybe a way to solve that. I've been fortunate in that I've lived in other countries, and I kind of view a lot of this area as like classic North American design when it comes to car first design. So I think those are some high level. As far as like overall improvements go, 224 north at Ute Boulevard, there's a double left-hand turn. To me, when I look at this, that seems a little excessive. Most of the people are turning left at Olympic, the intersection before. That's where you dump a lot of the traffic that needs to turn left. And in my eyes, you've got almost 10 plus lanes now at that intersection, and that would be a way to reduce that by one. Additionally, if we're going to remove that crosswalk right there, there's got to be some signage of some kind. We just have so many tourists from the US, from abroad, from people that haven't ever seen snow, and they're going to walk up to that intersection thinking that they can cross. And I think we just need signage that guides people to the tunnel. And I use the other intersection of Olympic as a landmark for that, as I see people get dropped off at that bus stop there all the time, and they naturally don't know to look down a hill and walk around, especially when there's snow, to walk around to go to that tunnel, and they sit there and try and cross the busy road. The roundabout at New Park, the extra lane makes sense because now there's a double turn to get in there. I would be worried that there's so few cars that turn right at that roundabout that we'd really be setting up for another backup of traffic right there. And so you have a double left turn that's going to kind of feed into a backup of traffic. That roundabout, again, is a very, in my opinion, a very non-pedestrian friendly intersection. I see lots of close calls there. So again, I don't know what we can do. The whole area of Kimball's a little patchworky, and so the walking around is a little difficult. I know I'm running out of time, so I like the noise barriers. Those are great. And I like the flexibility that this project offers in the future. I do worry a little bit. I know UDOT, is hamstrung a little bit on you have to spend the money sometimes or you lose it. Um, but I do worry a little bit about, us putting the time and effort into this and then not addressing kind of that broader 224 issue that I brought up. So I'd like the flexibility. I'm kind of talking out of both sides of my mouth here. It's nice to have the flexibility, but at the same time, I don't. Um, but overall, like when I look at this, I do sadly, because I feel like it doesn't address that broader problem, I do almost lean a little bit towards doing nothing. Like I can't believe I would say that. And honestly, if we need to spend the money, I guess we do, but I'd worry that we're going to do 2 years of construction only to then keep that construction going or not fully solve the overall issue. And so I like almost sadly lean towards that. I haven't made up my mind, but overall, I think you guys have done a great job. Uh, should be proud of all the work you did. I think you aced the assignment. I think maybe the assignment was slightly wrong, and that's all. So thank you for your time. Thank you for all your work, and I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Bob. We appreciate you joining us this evening.
Yep.
And for our court reporters' purposes, could you also make sure to state your full name and last name again so we can close out?
Yeah, absolutely. It's Bob Jacko, Jaccaud.
Thank you.
Okay. Great. Thank you so much, Bob. We really appreciate your time this evening.
Thank you.
Yep. All right. We don't have any other speakers in the queue, it looks like, yet, but we are going to stay on for a little bit more. Is there anybody else in the audience that hasn't signed up previously that would like to make a comment? If you're still on, please make sure to click the raise hand feature at the bottom of your screen. And it's looking like we don't have any takers quite yet, but we are going to keep our meeting open just so that way anybody joining late could have an opportunity to comment. However, we may take a brief break with that. And before we pause, I think just one final call for our two speakers that had pre-registered. If you're still out there as one of the callers online, Joan Entwistle or Karen Zorzi. And I don't see any hands yet for Joan or for Karen. All right. Well, I think with that, thank you so much for the folks that have decided to join us this evening. And we will just take a brief 5 to 10 minute break. And during that time, though, we will keep the meeting open. You'll be able to keep an eye on me and Brooke and Alana. We'll be watching for any potential speakers that join on. But for anybody out there, if you're aware of anyone in the community that was thinking they could come late, we'll be able to restart the presentation. So we'd like to provide that opportunity for anybody that might be joining late. So thank you again, folks. And I think Alana might even be starting a timer for us if anybody only caught the tail end part of Becky's presentation. We'll give that again to give folks an opportunity before we do the next round of commenting. So thank you again for joining us this evening, everybody. We really appreciate it. And for anyone that might have joined just a little bit late, we are taking kind of a brief intermission. We hadn't had any further speakers at this time, so if anybody is joining us a little bit late, please make sure to raise your hand if you'd like to make a comment. Otherwise, we will be giving our presentation a second time for anybody that is joining a little bit late. So we'll periodically check in with everybody, and we'll be keeping an eye on our participant list. So yeah, please make sure to raise your hand if you'd like to make a comment. For anyone new that might be tuning in, we are taking kind of a brief intermission while we're waiting for additional commenters to join us. As you'll see on screen, Alana's timer will be restarting a new presentation to give folks an opportunity that might have missed Becky's initial overview of the study ahead of another round of public comment. So thank you for being here, and if you're joining a little bit late, we'll be getting started again shortly. And in the meantime, if anybody new is joining, please let us know and raise your hand and we can open up comments again. So thank you. Thanks, everyone. If we've got any new folks online, Please raise your hand if you'd like to make a comment. Otherwise, as you'll see in the timer on Alana's screen, we will be restarting our presentation to give everybody an opportunity to kind of hear Becky's overview again before we resume the comment portion of the evening. So thank you. Hello, everyone. We're down to the 2-minute warning as seen on Alana's screen. If there's anybody new joining us, my name is Bree Binabus with the Kimball Junction Draft Environmental Impact Statement Public Involvement Team, and we'll be getting started very shortly on our next round of comments and a quick overview from our project manager, Becky Stromness. So thanks for still being here, and for anybody out here who is a new joiner, we appreciate that. Well, that was a very harmonious entry. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. We're back after our brief intermission. And with that, we'll be restarting our presentation. So if there's anybody new out there that is joining us for this evening, thank you. And Erica, I think if you could go to the next slide, please, we'll be able to kind of get into all the things. We'll do a kind of a condensed version as a reminder. Tonight is our public hearing. So Marissa will be dropping some links in the chat if anyone is new here that give our participant guides. We'll be going through just a kind of a repeat and quick overview of the presentation Becky gave earlier. And then we'll be opening the floor again for any public comments. So with that, on to you, Becky.
Thanks, Bree. The National Environmental Policy Act, or what we like to refer to as NEPA, that was established in 1969, It established the national environmental policy, and it provides a framework for planning and transportation decision-making. An environmental impact statement, or what we like to call EIS, is a document that details the process through which a transportation project decision is made. An EIS will identify the purpose and need, or the why we are undertaking the study. It will identify a range of reasonable alternatives. It will analyze the potential impacts resulting from the alternatives. It will demonstrate compliance with applicable environmental laws and executive orders. It includes the opportunity for the public to participate and comment. And the last thing it does is determines and documents a preferred alternative, the associated effects, and the proposed mitigation. So for this project, the problems that the EIS is looking to address include the following. The main issue is the traffic operations and congestion in the Kimball Junction area. The conditions have gotten worse due to the ongoing development and growth being experienced in Summit County. These conditions will continue to get worse, so the environmental study is seeking solutions that will help with improving traffic operations and travel times on State Route 224. There are also safety concerns with the I-80 off-ramp traffic backing clear down the ramps and potentially into the high-speed interstate traffic. We want to make sure that both the cyclists and pedestrian have good accessibility and that it's improved in the area. We want to make sure that the transit travel times are also maintained or improved over the current conditions. Efforts to start looking at improvements began several years ago at this point, but the alternatives originated from over 30 ideas and concepts that were developed during an effort called the Kimball Junction Area Plan. That effort wrapped up and occurred back in 2021. From that Kimball Junction Area Plan effort, there were 3 alternatives that were advanced for study in the Kimball Junction EIS. We presented the screening criteria and methodology that would be used to evaluate each of the alternatives to the community in 2023. And we held a public comment period to get feedback on our methodology, the criteria, and the associated measures we would be using in the EIS to screen the alternatives. The level 3 screening criteria was used to eliminate any alternatives that did not meet the purpose and need of the project. The level 3 screening metrics included things for travel times, the queue backup length on the I-80 off-ramp, and if we were improving bike and pedestrian mobility and accessibility. The level 4 screening was used to eliminate any alternatives that would be unreasonable due to impacts to the natural or human environment. The alternative possibly would not meet regulatory requirements, or the alternative duplicates the benefits of a less costly alternative with similar impacts. So some of the examples of the resources that were looked at included estimated impacts to threatened and endangered species, impacts to water and wetland resources, and the amount of right-of-way that would be needed for the project. Alternative B, which is called grade separated intersections with one-way frontage roads, was not advanced for further evaluation in the draft EIS because it did not meet the purpose and need of the project. It failed the level 3 screening for pedestrian and bicyclist mobility and comfort. It also had the most property impacts and the highest cost without substantially greater benefits in comparison to the other 2 alternatives of A and C. Both alternative A, which is known as the split diamond interchange with intersection improvements, and alternative C, known as the intersection improvements with pedestrian enhancements, Both of these were evaluated in the draft EIS. Both of these meet the purpose of the project and would achieve similar benefits for vehicle and active transportation with a similar level of impact to resources. Both of these alternatives will support the future land use in the area and include BRT improvements. The analysis of these alternatives took into consideration the currently adopted land use plans and growth assumptions, including the future developments proposed in the Kimball Junction area. This table contains the information about the level 3 or the purpose and need screening of alternative A and C that can be compared to the 2050 no action alternative. At the top is the travel time, the speed, and the intersection level of service information. Alternative C performs the best. Then we have the safety metric of how far the vehicle backup queue would be on the I-80 ramp. Alternative C is 200 feet better than alternative A. Then we get into the transit travel times. Alternative A does about 30 seconds better than alternative C, with both alternative A and C being more than 2 minutes better than the no action alternative. Towards the bottom is the bicycle and pedestrian metrics. Alternative A and C were the same level 1 traffic stress compared to level 3 traffic stress for the no action alternative. And the last criteria was the walk time between 4 different origin and destination pair locations. Alternative A has estimated time savings of over a minute better than alternative C, and both better than the no action alternative. And this is the table for the level 4 screening of resource impacts and cost information. Again, for alternatives A and C, that can be compared to the no action alternative. Many of the resource impacts are very similar or even the same for alternatives A and C. Some of the resources that have differences are, at the top, land converted to roadway use and the associated right-of-way acquisition that will be needed for the project. Alternative A has a higher amount at 4.86 acres compared to alternative C with a lesser amount of 3.5 acres. Alternative A has the highest impacts to utilities. This is due to a pump house that will be impacted. The aquatic resources and floodplain impacts are slightly higher for alternative A than alternative C. Both alternative A and C have receptors with modeled noise above the criteria. That being said, the modeled noise levels are in the same range as the existing conditions and with the no action alternative. The bottom line in the table is the estimated cost. There is a large, nearly 60% difference between alternatives A and C, with alternative C being over $75 million less. For the project noise analysis, we identified sensitive land use areas. These are typically residences, and determined the traffic noise impacts that would result from the project. Then we evaluate if noise barriers would be feasible and reasonable. When evaluating if a noise barrier is feasible or reasonable, we look at things like if the barrier would create a safety issue. An easy example of this is there adequate sight distance, or does the barrier obstruct the view of oncoming vehicles for those perhaps trying to pull out from their neighborhood? We also look to see if the barrier would provide a noticeable difference in noise. If we build a wall, we want it to make a difference. And is it cost effective? We evaluated 6 noise barriers, and of those, 2, we have noise wall 1 and noise wall 2, which are shown in the blue. These 2 walls were determined to be feasible and reasonable and will be recommended for balloting to the affected property owners. Noise wall 1 is approximately 17 feet tall and about 1,300 feet long. And then noise wall 2, towards the bottom of the screen, is approximately 14 feet tall and about 600 feet long. UDOT considered the transportation performance, impacts to the natural and human environment, and cost in the decision-making process. Alternative C results in greater reduction in travel delay and faster speeds during both the morning and afternoon peak periods. Alternative C provides acceptable level of service at all of the intersections and has the shortest off-ramp vehicle queue lengths. Lastly, Alternative C is a more reasonable expenditure of funds for the anticipated operational benefits compared to Alternative A. Alternative C, known as intersection improvements with pedestrian enhancements, has been identified as the preferred alternative. Alternative C will provide maximum flexibility for future compatibility depending on how the area develops in the coming years. Most importantly, it doesn't preclude any elements of Alternative A potentially happening in the future. Now I'll go over some of the key features of the preferred alternative, and I would certainly encourage you to visit the project website where you'll be able to zoom in and see these features more clearly. The key features of Alternative C include additional lanes on the I-80 eastbound on and off ramps. There will be the addition of a third travel lane in both the northbound and southbound directions on State Route 224. Additional turn lanes at both the Ute Boulevard and Olympic Parkway intersection. So all movements will end up having dual left turns. There will be a new pedestrian underpass crossing located between Ute Boulevard and Olympic Parkway to help people get back and forth. And then there will also be the addition of new buffered bike lanes running along State Route 224. Concerning our schedule, after the public comment period, we anticipate conducting further analysis as necessary, and we will be responding to all of the comments that are received during the public comment period. Our intention is to have a final EIS and record of decision issued and out later this year. And again, we are in the 45-day public comment period. It began back in March 14th and will end on April 28th. And during this public comment period, we are seeking input about the preferred alternative, the analysis of the impacts, and the proposed mitigation of the potential impacts. And then comments can be submitted via many different methods, one of which is providing a comment tonight, or phone, email, sent in the mail, or maybe the easiest for a lot of people is using the comment form on the study website. So with that, send it back over to Bree.
Outstanding. I did notice we have kind of a new attendee a little bit, Power Hour. So thank you for joining us. And I just want to do a quick run through as we're about to start restart our comment portion. Marissa will be posting a link in the chat for you if you haven't had an opportunity to take a look at our participant guide. But just a very quick overview, we'll be able to promote you as a co-host. So if you would like to make a statement at all this evening, that will allow you the ability to turn your video on if you feel comfortable doing so, and to be able to unmute and speak. And we're giving folks around 3 minutes to be able to make comments, and we'll be here until 7:30. And if we don't have a whole lot of speakers ready to go in the queue, we will take a brief pause and restart again, and maybe give Becky an opportunity to give folks just kind of one last chance to sort of hear the quick project overview. And if you would like to sign up at all as part of our speakers list, Marissa's got a link in the chat for you there as well. And just as the format of tonight's meeting is, a presentation, but it's a public hearing, we won't be responding to any of the comments this evening. However, we will be collecting all of the comments that we receive from the hearings and throughout the comment period from all the other mediums that Becky mentioned. And we will be recording, reviewing all of those. This team here tonight is in charge of that. And we'll be providing responses in the final EIS. And so we are also inviting folks to leave any additional comments, even outside of our hearings. Our website comment form is a great way to do that. And Marissa will be giving you a link for it. And then finally, when we restart the comment portion, just a friendly reminder that any of our public comments, we do advise that they follow UDOT's social media policy and participant code of conduct. And Marissa will be dropping that link in the chat, or maybe not a link, I should say, but just kind of a high level summary for that. Everybody's been really great throughout this whole process, but just in general, our team could potentially remove you from the meeting if any of those comments contain, obscenities, threats, things of that nature. So with that, I would love to open the floor up again for anyone, especially our new speakers, if you would like to make a comment this evening. And if you would, please state your name and also click the raise hand button. I think we'll be showing the icon for that on the next screen, if you will, at the bottom right there. So do we have anyone in attendance that would like to make a formal comment this evening during this session? I see a hand raised. Yes, sir, let me promote you. And then please state your name for the court reporter, if you could.
My name is Ernest Orienti.
Thank you.
So let's see. I've lived here 27 years. I have a very unique perspective. From my backyard, I see the brake lights every night on 224. In fact, when we first moved here, there was a gas station, McDonald's, Kmart, and the Smiths. That was Kimball Junction, right? So my comment is twofold. One, I truly am looking forward. I see those brake lights year round every single night, so I can track. I literally can track and tell you what it looks like. So I really am excited to hear that this is moving forward. It needs to happen, right? And while the path is going down option C or alternative C, I hope that we continue to look at other possibilities. I don't know if that will be enough. Not only do I see the brake lights this way, but then I go into the ski resorts in the morning and I watch it the other way. So I'm excited about a path forward. Thank you, UDOT. I am in hopes that it will be a good solution among other solutions, and I hope that we'll continue to be willing to come back to the table as needed if we need to go back and revisit an option A or alternative A, whatever that may be going forward. Just my comment. Okay.
Thank you so much for joining us this evening. We really appreciate you taking the time to make that.
Thank you.
And
Yes.
Brooke, did you get all that information for your? Okay, great. Well,
Yes,
thank you
thank
again,
you.
Ernest. It was great to have you
Thank
join
you.
us tonight.
Thank you.
Excellent. Do we have anyone else in the audience that would like to make a comment at this time? It looks like not. So similar to previously, for anyone that's still on from earlier, or if you're newly joining us, please speak up. It looks like we might have another phone participant on there. We were potentially going to take an intermission, but to our participant on the phone, if you would like to make a comment, please press *9 to raise your hand. Otherwise, we will be, oh, great. Let's make sure we can get you to comment. And I might need my faithful IT partner, our phone person to be able to comment. Do we?
Hi,
Oh,
can
okay.
you
Looks like
hear
we got
me?
you. Yes, we have you. Could you please state your name?
Awesome. Yes,
Great.
Mari Manel Bell,
Terrific.
and I'm in 84060. Uh, so I did just want to comment that I'm concerned because of a lack of a comprehensive plan for this area, and I would urge you to meet with the people that oversee Kimball Junction and the planners for Dakota Pacific. Also, I'm concerned about the effects on wildlife. I have personally witnessed several terrified moose getting trapped alongside the westbound exit ramp of I-80 at Jeremy Ranch. It was one of the worst experiences I've been through because I felt so helpless with helping them. So I would just like to be sure that you have a plan to address such issues if they ever arise. That's
Thank
it.
you. Well, thank you very much for joining us and sharing that tonight. We really appreciate it. Brooke, were you able to get her information, or do we need a repeat of names?
Lori, if you could just spell your last name for me, that would be helpful.
Sure, it's M-E, two N's, E-L, dash, B-E-L-L.
Perfect,
And
thank
the
you.
first name's spelled M-A-R-I.
Oh,
Great,
I'm
thank
sorry. I thought you said Lori. You said
Nope. No.
I think Mari will be our first name, Mari.
I apologize. Thank you.
Yes.
Well, thank you, Mari. We really
Thank you.
appreciate that.
Oh, thanks for the opportunity to comment.
Absolutely.
All right.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Mari. Have a great evening. Excellent. Do we have any other speakers in the audience right now before we take a brief intermission to give any additional comments? All right, well, we'll take a brief pause on screen if there's anyone joining or for anyone out in the audience that wants to encourage folks to take advantage of this. Please just indicate just by raising your hand, pressing that icon button. We will be monitoring that, and we'll be joining you in probably another 5 minutes, kind of watching the time, 5 to 10 minutes. So that in the event that we can get any last round of comments in, or Becky can give the rapid fire version for this if anybody else joins. So thank you. We'll be monitoring. And if anyone else joins out there, please, we'll be keeping an eye, and please raise your hand. Thank you. Thank you out there for everyone still tuning in with us. Just wanted to do a quick check-in if there's any additional commenters. Otherwise, in the next few minutes, we'll be getting started with probably our last quick project overview and round of commenting for the evening. So thank you. Hello, everyone. Thanks for being with us this evening. We're kind of winding down at the end of the Kimball Junction draft environmental impact statement public hearing for the evening. My name is Bree and I'm part of the project team. And our project manager, Becky Stromness, will give just a very quick overview in case anybody might have missed any portions of the update that she provided to the group. And we'll open the time up remaining after that for any final comments. So just a reminder that please raise your hand if you'd like to make a comment when we get to that portion. So I think, Erica, if you can move forward a little bit for me, that would be great. I won't make y'all hear the whole agenda again, but just kind of a friendly reminder. And we'll actually get right into it for Becky to give us a quick overview, starting with the project purpose and need.
Alrighty, so the problems that the EIS that we're looking to address and solve include the following. The main issue is that the traffic operations and congestion in the Kimball Junction area have gotten worse due to the ongoing development and growth being experienced in Summit County and the surrounding areas. These conditions will continue to get worse, so the environmental study is seeking solutions that will help with improving traffic operations and travel times on State Route 224. There are safety concerns with the I-80 off-ramp traffic backing clear down the ramps and potentially into the high-speed traffic. We want to make sure that both bicyclists and pedestrian accessibility is improved in the area. And we want to make sure that transit travel times are maintained or improved. This effort started several years ago, and the prior effort to the EIS was called the Kimball Junction Area Plan. The area plan effort occurred back in 2021, and in that there was over 30 ideas and concepts that were developed. And from that area plan, there were 3 alternatives that were then advanced for study in the Kimball Junction EIS. We presented the screening criteria and methodology that would be used to evaluate each of the alternatives to the community in 2023, and we held a public comment period to get feedback on our methodology, criteria, and the associated measures we would be using. The level 3 screening criteria focuses and is used to eliminate any alternatives that did not meet the purpose and need of the project. This includes metrics for things like travel times, queue lengths of the I-80 off-ramps, and if we were improving bike and pedestrian mobility and accessibility. And then the level 4 screening was used to eliminate any alternatives that would be unreasonable due to the impacts to the natural or human environment. The alternative would not meet regulatory requirements, or perhaps the alternative duplicates the benefits of a less costly alternative with similar impacts. Some of the example of the resources that we looked at for level 4 included impacts to threatened and endangered species, water and wetland resources, and right-of-way that would need to be acquired for the project. Alternative B, known as the grade-separated intersections with one-way frontage roads. Alternative B was not advanced for further evaluation in the draft EIS because it did not meet the purpose of the project. It failed the level 3 screening for the pedestrian and bicyclist mobility and comfort metrics. And it also has the most property impacts and the highest cost without substantially greater benefits in comparison to the 2 other options. Both alternative A, split diamond interchange, and alternative C, the intersection improvements with pedestrian enhancements, were evaluated in the draft EIS. Both of these alternatives meet the purpose of the project and would achieve similar benefits for vehicle and active transportation users with a similar level of impacts to resources. Both of these alternatives will support the future land use in the area and include BRT improvements. The analysis of these alternatives took into consideration currently adopted land use plans, growth assumptions, and includes future developments proposed in the Kimball Junction area. This table contains the information about the level 3 purpose and needs screening of alternative A and C that can be compared to the 2050 no action alternative. At the top, we have the metrics for travel time, speed, and intersection level of service. On this, alternative C performs the best. Then we have the safety metric of how far the vehicle backup queue would be on the I-80 off-ramp. Alternative C is 200 feet better than alternative A. Then we get into the transit travel times. Alternative A does 30 seconds better than C, with both A and C more than 2 minutes better than the no action alternative. Towards the bottom is the bicycle and pedestrian metrics. Alternative A and C were the same with a traffic stress of level 1 compared to traffic stress level 2 of the no action alternative. And the last criteria was the walk time between 4 different origin and paired locations. In this case, alternative A has an estimated time savings of over a minute better than alternative C, and both better than the no action alternative. In this next table, we have a summary of the level 4 screening of resource impacts and cost information. Again, alternatives A and C can be compared to the no action alternative. Many of the resource impacts are very similar or even the same between alternatives A and C. Some of the resources that have differences include the land converted to roadway use and the associated right-of-way acquisition that would be needed. Alternative A has a higher amount of 4.86 acres compared to alternative C with a lesser amount at 3.5 acres. Alternative A has the highest impact to utilities. This is due to a pump house in the area that would be impacted. The aquatic resources and floodplain impacts are slightly higher for alternative A than alternative C. Both alternative A and C have modeled noise above the criteria. That being said, the modeled noise levels are in the same range as the existing conditions and the same as the no action alternative. On the bottom line of the table, you can see the estimated cost. There is a large, nearly 60% difference between alternatives A and C, with alternative C being over $75 million less. UDOT considered transportation performance, impacts to the natural and human environment, and cost in the decision-making process. Alternative C results in a greater reduction in travel delay and faster travel speeds during both the morning and afternoon peak periods of travel. Alternative C provides acceptable level of service at all of the intersections and has the shortest off-ramp vehicle queue lengths. And lastly, alternative C is a more reasonable expenditure of funds for the anticipated operational benefits compared to alternative A. Alternative C, intersection improvements with pedestrian enhancements, has been identified as the preferred alternative. Alternative C will provide maximum flexibility for future compatibility depending on how the area develops in the coming years. But most importantly, it doesn't preclude any elements of alternative A potentially happening in the future. So after our public comment period that we're currently in ends, we will be conducting any further analysis as necessary, and we will be responding to all comments received from the public during the comment period. Our intention is to have the final EIS and record of decision released later this year. And as a quick reminder, we have many ways to provide comments. The comment period started March 14th and continues through April 28th, 2025. And comments can be submitted via the phone, email, in this public hearing meeting, or perhaps the easiest way for many people is to go to our study website and use the comment form on there. And with that, we'll go back to Bree and see if we have any new people that have joined that would like to provide comments.
Thank you, Becky. And it does look like we have someone new that joined us during your presentation. Just kind of a quick reminder for our comment portion. You'll be able to be promoted. So if you'd like to make a comment this evening, please raise your hand. So clicking the hand icon, and we're looking at around a few minutes, probably around 3 is what you see on screen. And as Becky mentioned, we will be providing responses to all the comments in the final EIS. However, this isn't a question answer session. We won't be responding to the comments this evening. So with that, to be able to comment, please make sure to raise your hand at the bottom of the screen by clicking that icon. So Erica, if you could just go to that, please, that would be great. And with that, I think our new participant, Janet, would you like to make a comment this evening? And if so, please raise your hand and we will promote you to a co-host, so you'll have the ability to both speak and share your video if you'd like to. And otherwise, we'll keep the floor open for the next few minutes if there's any other folks that join or wish to make a comment. And for everyone else online, thank you. We really appreciate the time that you've committed to us this evening to hear the project overview from Becky and just to share your ideas with us. And as we're waiting for any remaining speakers, just a friendly reminder that anything that you see on screen tonight that Becky reviewed, if you want to go through the chat links, Marissa, one of our team members, is providing direct links to all the materials that you saw on screen tonight. So zoom in just a little bit more in case you had any difficulty viewing anything tonight. And we will be placing a copy of tonight's hearing and the overviews that Becky provided on our project website. Thank you to the folks that are still online with us. We'll keep the floor open for a few more minutes this evening, and we'll have some closing thoughts from our fearless leader, Becky, before we end for the evening. So thank you again for taking the time to join us. And maybe, Erica, as we're winding down the evening, if you could go back to put our contact information back on the screen for anybody that maybe didn't catch it much the first time around. We'll be listing the ways that we are asking folks to comment, and also just a quick refresher from what Becky had mentioned previously for the type of comments that we're looking for, specific to our preferred alternative, our impacts analysis, and the proposed mitigation of those potential impacts. And anything's viable, and for anyone out there that's curious, you can leave a voicemail or a text message for us on that hotline. So we really want to make sure to include a variety of mediums for folks. Well, thank you again for joining us this evening, everyone. We really appreciate the involvement of the community, and just for the folks that have taken the time to join us last night, but also to tune in this evening to hear a few different versions of Becky's overview. It's been much appreciated. And we're counting down. We haven't seen any new participants joining us, but what we've got on screen is the their project and study website email address, and Marissa has been dropping links in the chat for you, and we will drop a final one in there to make sure to get you right to our site. But with that, I'd like to turn the floor over to Becky for any closing thoughts for this evening.
Thank you, Bree. I just want to acknowledge and recognize everyone from the community that has participated in this process, either tonight or the other night in one of our public hearings. I just think it's great when people, get involved with their community. UDOT does welcome and encourage your comments and feedback that you have. So would just like to continue. If you have anything or you think of something in the next few days, please visit our study website at kimballjunctioneis.udot.utah.gov and leave your comments for us. Thank you and have a nice evening.